Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're going to be trying something a little bit different today. So, what's happened this past weekend? UFC 285 was in the books. We saw everything. We saw the return of John Jones. We saw Alexa Grasso becoming the new UFC flyweight champion. We saw a little bit of controversy with the Bo Nickel debut, and we saw an absolute war between Jeff Neal and Shavkat. If you want to see the watch long that myself and Callum did for UFC 285, please click the link in the description with the link for that watch along. Make sure they hit the like button, share button, show the sounds and show plenty of love. And also, whilst you're there, check out the stream me and Callum did yesterday, looking back at the fights and give our views on it. But I'm gonna do something a little bit different. So yes, we got the reviews of the fights and where does that leave certain fighters. Now I'm going to play matchmaker. I'm going to play Sean Shelby. So we're looking at the big winners, the bigger losers, what could go next. And let's be honest, there's some plenty of great fights out there for the people that won and the people that lost as well. Some obvious, like the main event, co-main event, as we'll touch on later. However, there's some more exciting ones, some a little bit out of the ordinary that we could set up people. So let's start. Let's start with a fight that me and Callum did not cover because it was on the early prelims on UFC Fight Pass. Is Ian Gary. Ian Gary undefeated at welterweight at the moment. He's Irish. He's got the McGregor in him. It's a great fight. I've managed to watch the fight since UFC 285, and it was a good fight. Got dropped with a beautiful left hook. He just about survived, and then he came back strong, and he finished his opponent in the third round. And it's a big win for him because he came back from adversity to win the fight, which is good, showing that he can take a shot as well because he got dropped but got straight back up. But I don't know whether or not that fight, on the back of that fight, you're going to go top 15 guy. For me, he's probably one more fight away outside of the top 15 before we can even get him into the top 15. Yeah, and if you're looking at the runners, the riders, to see who could he potentially face, it's just on the cusp of the top 15. It's not quite in the top 15 yet. And I have one name in particular. Chaos Williams. Yes, people may think, who is Chaos Williams? Well, he's made his UFC debut in emphatic style with a walk-off KO. It was a thing of beauty. Very good striker. Stepped up against Michel Pereira. Didn't really get the result that he was looking for, but he's another hard-hitting striker. Something that would be right up Ian Gary's street. Another striker matchup. And for me, it just makes sense. Like if he gets through that test, then maybe we can look at maybe a Ponzinibbio, Li Xinjiang, Daniel Rodriguez. So maybe like he's slowly pushing, but the always the fear is when you get someone that's like Nick, he's dubbed the next McGregor because he come from Ireland. It's very easy to just go, we're going to strap the rocket to the moon and whatever happens. But I think a slow build with Ian Gary is going to be the best thing for him. Let's not rush him too early for a title shot. Like he's probably years away from getting a title shot. A slow burn. So for me, a next step up in opposition for him will be Chaos Williams, and that'll be a fight that I'd love to see. Now, moving on to the prelims. Yeah, another fight me and Callum did not cover. But I managed to watch that fight as well, and now it's Derek Brunson versus Dricus Du Plessis. It's a big opportunity for Dricus Du Plessis. Came off a great win over Darren Till. And Derek Brunson, yes, he was on the back of the Jared Cannonier loss, a brutal KO loss. But this was an opportunity for Brunson to get back on the horse, or it was the opportunity Du Plessis needed to ascend himself up the rankings. obviously, it ended towards the end of the second round. I think it was like 4:59 on the clock, second round, because Derek Brunson corner threw the towel in for the second consecutive fight. So where do we go for here for Dricus du Plessis? With this win, it will probably just rank him outside the top 5 based on the rankings. And if you look who's around and who's fought, there, for me, there's only 2 guys for me that he could fight that would make sense. One, Jared Cannonier. Make perfect sense. A big striker. He's looking to bounce back off the loss to Sean Strickland. That was a bit of a bore fest, a bit of a sleep fest. It'd be a great fight to watch. And then another guy that I think would be another great fight, Sean Strickland. Yes, Sean Strickland's coming off the 2 back-to-back wins against Jared Cannonier that some argue that he could have lost, and then the fight against Imanov that was fought at a catch weight at the beginning of the year. So for me, Dricus du Plessis, either one of those fights, it's great for him because it just pushes him up the rankings. And you're looking at middleweight now. Yes, you've got Izzy versus Pereira coming in April. You've got Robert Whittaker that will probably wait for the winner. Then the rest of that, there's some fresh blood coming in. Obviously at UFC London, it's going to be Vittori versus Gike Delatze, which is going to be a cracking fight coming up. So there's definitely lots of good matchups coming up in the UFC middleweight division coming soon. And we go to the top of the prelims. Yeah, another fight that we did not cover, and it was Cody Garbrandt was getting a victory over Trevor Jones. It wasn't a pretty victory from Cody Garbrandt. This is definitely the shadow of the once champion that we saw. Remember when he dismantled Dominic Cruz? Well, how about we run it back? Trip down memory lane. We know that Dominic Cruz is coming off a devastating knockout loss to Marlon Chito Vera. First time Dominic Cruz has ever lost a non-title fight. Crazy. It's a crazy stat. And why not run it back? Because if you look at Dominic Cruz, I don't think he's ever going to get a title shot again, unless someone deliberately goes and calls him out and says, I want to fight Dominic Cruz. You've seen rumors of, Umar Nurmagomedov wants to fight him. I'm thinking, I don't really want to get ragged around the octagon. And we all know that he's probably not going to get another shot at the gold. But it'd be a great fight for the fans. It'd be a great fight night main event somewhere that ain't the Apex. Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt too, run it back. Why not? Absolutely, why not? Roll back the years, Dana. Roll it back. We all know. We all want it. I want it. So, what do you think? Leave a comment leave comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about a potential Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz 2. End of the prelims. End of the prelims. The main card. Let's start with Bo Nickel versus Jamie Pickett. As me and Callum discussed on the live stream yesterday, victory marred in controversy, and a fight that will be getting appealed because it was an obvious nut shot. I think I called it in the watch along that he got him he hit a groin strike before the takedown, and it should have been separated, and Pickett should have had the opportunity to recover, but they didn't. And I don't blame Bo Nickel. I don't blame him because it's not his fault. He's not a dirty fighter. It's just an accidental groin strike. And I think it's more concerning that the UFC do have video footage that if anything did happen, they could actually restart a fight. So the fact that they didn't restart it from that particular position is not a good look. Sort of marred the hype, the debut, the fact that he got the first round finish, and now you're looking thinking it's probably going to be a no contest, and now you're scrambling to think, who can Nickel fight? Are we going to run it back with Pickett? Are we going to pick a new opponent? Well, I've got the perfect new opponent, Gerard Mershaft, GM3. yes, he is a wily veteran of the middleweight division, but at the moment, I would not be strapping the rocket onto Bo Nickel just yet. Yes, he is an elite wrestler, but let's take our time here. Let's take the Hamzat trajectory. Take a few unranked opponents before you think about moving up. And for me, GM3's got a good wrestling background as well. Can strike a little bit as well. I think it'd be a great test for someone like a Bo Nickel for his second UFC fight, because I do expect that this fight will get turned around to be a no contest. So Bo Nickel's going to need a new dance partner, and for me, I think that dance partner should be GM3. Okay, next fight on the card: Gamrot versus Jalen Turner. Another great fight. Some dodgy judging, as me and Callum discussed yesterday, but Gamrot walked away with the win. And the thing is with lightweight at the moment, it's all pretty much booked. You got Islam that's just fought. Dustin's probably sitting waiting for Islam. You've got Dariush versus Charles, booked. Gaethje versus Vazeev, booked. Chandler versus McGregor, sort of booked. Doing the Ultimate Fighter, not picked a date yet. And then you're looking at Sarukian, just fought. Don't really want to run that back just yet. Hooker, more on him later. Grant Dawson. Trying to think, like, people that are coming up from the top 15. Would you want to fight them? Maybe a Rafael Dos Anjos, maybe, for a big name. But for me, I think there's one guy. I think there's one guy that Gamrot could fight, be a fan favorite fight, and that's Rodano Morgano. Morgano wants money, and Morgano wants a fight, and I think that's gonna be a great fight. It's gonna be a great fan fight. It's gonna be good wrestling. It's gonna be good striking as well. And plus, could you imagine, like, if Morgano wins, he's gonna say, "Hey, Joe Rogan, Morgano wants money." It's great. It's gonna be a great fight. And for Jalen Turner, look, it's a great fighter. He was on a 5-fight win streak. Submitted Brad Riddell, dropped him, then caught him in the mean submission. But let's not get he shouldn't get his head down. It was a late replacement. So for what to do next with him, I'd actually run it back with the opponent that he was originally meant to fight, which was Dan Hooker. So Jalen Turner versus Hooker somewhere down the line. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. And let's go to the fight of the night: Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Dana went back on his law. You miss weight, you're no bonus. Well, Jeff Neal got his bonus, all right, because that was a hell of a fight. Made Shavkat look human. Didn't think I'd be saying that from what I've seen of Shavkat. 17 wins, 17 finishes. This one was definitely the hardest test. And I know he called out Colby Covington in the octagon, and you're looking, saying, Dana's like, I like the look of that fight. Colby says he's back. But take what he says with a pinch of salt. I don't see him coming back for a while. I see him sitting out for a title shot and waiting, personally. So you can look at the other contenders. You got Edwards Usman rematch for UFC London, for UFC 286 in London. You've got Burns versus Masvidal. Co-main of Izzy versus Pereira. And I'm thinking, then you did have the Hamzat. Do we get the Shavkat versus Hamzat fight now? Unfortunately, we're not going to get that fight, because Dana's confirmed that Hamzat is moving up to 185, despite the fact that Dana said that he'd give him one more chance at 70. Interesting to see if those two will ever fight. And also, you've got Sean Brady versus Michel Pereira coming at the end of this month as well. But for me, I think Shavkat's not going to get a title shot next. because I imagine, regardless who the winner is of the trilogy, I think it will be Bilal Muhammad that will get the next shot. So that rules out Bilal Muhammad. I reckon Shavkat should fight the winner of Gilbert Burns versus Masvidal. We know if Burns is successful, we know Burns' game. Look what he did to Hamzat. It's a war. Could you imagine him versus Shavkat? Take my money. Take my money. I want to see that. Everyone would want to see that. Gilbert Burns versus Shavkat. Money. And Jeff Neal deserves he deserves a big name. He deserves a big name. And there's a certain welterweight that wants strikers. Doesn't like wrestling. He wants strikers. And we know that the last time they fought, Wonder Boy was vintage Wonder Boy. Or maybe we just run back Jeff Neal versus Wonder Boy 2. It's a good fight, big name. It's gonna be a striker's matchup, a striker's dream. So yeah, run that back for Jeff Neal. Or failing that, I just mentioned it a little bit ago. Winner of Sean Brady versus Michel Barrera. It's gonna be a great fight regardless, and I reckon those are the two fights that should be considered for Jeff Neal going forward. I think the last two are pretty self-explanatory of what to do next regarding those fighters. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Alexa Grasso, your new UFC flyweight champion. Crazy, huh? Crazy. Got the submission. Nearly broke her face getting the submission. What to do with her next? I think that's pretty simple. Run it back for a rematch. I think with Dana saying that they want to go to Mexico this year, potentially you could have Moreno on the card, Grasso on the card, Yair on the card. Potentially if Irene Aldana beat Amanda Nunes, which is due to happen soon, then that could be on the card. So definitely lots of options for that Mexico card. And I think if they are doing the Mexico card and both the women don't get injured into the build-up, then absolutely have Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2 on that. Definitely. Either main event or co-main event for me. It's going to be a big-time fight, and I'm so excited to see that rematch when it happens later this year. And the main event, John Bones Jones returns in emphatic victory over Cyril Gane in the post fight breakdown yesterday. We dissected it more in detail, but just for a quick overview, I thought as much as Jones saw the weakness, attacked the weakness, I thought the moment got to Cyril. I thought Cyril froze, choked on this big moment. This was a big moment. You beat Jones. You beat Jones on this comeback. You're in history. But choked in a big moment, and John Jones is deservedly your UFC heavyweight champion. And to pretty much set up his next fight, potentially could be his last fight. Me and Callum both spoke about it. About if he beats his next opponent emphatically, that could be him done. And that's going to be Stipe Miocic. It's going to be very interesting because Stipe is not scared. Stipe is not scared of John Jones. Maybe he should be, based on that performance, but he's not scared. Being underestimated his whole career. The UFC heavyweight GOAT, in some people's eyes, criminally underrated. So he's got no problem being the underdog. We look like we could have a date for that. Scheduling for UFC 290 in July. We could potentially see Jones 3 times this year. But I don't think we're going to see him 3 times this year. I honestly believe that this will be his final fight. I know he signed a multi-fight deal, but that's the way to the UFC to protect them, to make sure Jones can't, say that he's done with the UFC and then sort of slip out the back door and go somewhere else. But I do think this Jones versus Stipe, that is the obvious fight to make. Me and Callum spoke about, does Stipe deserve it? based on the fact that he's been completely inactive, despite the fact that I know Stipe's been had some, some personal things outside the octagon. But for me, I'm wondering if that was on one of Jones's terms or to return. Yes, if I win the belt, I want Stipe. I want Stipe. There's no if buts. Maybe if I'm coming back and I win the belt, Stipe is my first and only title defense. And we'll find that out, because should John Jones beat Stipe? Should he beat Stipe? Because it's not a foregone conclusion, as people are saying, oh, it's done. It's done. Should John Jones beat him, I will admit that he is the GOAT. Because at the moment, for me, GSP and him are sitting at the same table and they're looking across each other, because they've both done pretty much similar things. Dominated their weight division. Got lucky with some decisions. GSP, the Jimi Hendrix fight. Yes, I know people will say, but GSP lost at welterweight. Matt Hughes, Sarah. Well, I know Jones got disqualified in the Matt Hamill fight. Should have been disqualified against Anthony Smith. He was I think God was looking down on him when Anthony Smith was shrugging it off and going, yeah, let's go again. I'm not taking the belt like that. Then Jones, towards the end of his reign at light heavyweight, he had some decisions where he didn't look great, but he just did enough to get the job done. So for me, I think it's more like when Jones versus Stipe happens. Should Jones win, he'll do something that GSP didn't do. That's defend the middleweight. Well, defend the belt that he won in the division above. But for me, I think the obvious fight to make for that is John Jones versus Stipe Miocic for UFC 290, which is, I think it's going to be confirmed soon. They're in talks, but I would imagine that will get done soon. Everyone that's watched, make sure they hit a massive to hit the like button, hit the share, subscribe button. Let me know if there's any other matchup that I've completely missed out that you'd want to see from the fighters on the back of UFC 285. Everyone, and also leave the comments on stuff that you want to see on this channel. I am looking to probably see if I can do a preview for the next UFC event that's coming up, Piotr Yan versus Merab Divashvili. It's going to be a very interesting card. It's a good card, but it's going to be an interesting main event. Piotr Yan against Aljamain Sterling's sparring partner. And if I told you that that Piotr Yan was on a poor run, you'd be calling me crazy. Because I think he's 1-2 1-3 in his last 4. You'd call me crazy, but that's the way it is. So make sure to check out that when it comes out. I may do it live. I may do it pre-recorded. I'll just see how time goes. And also in the description, please subscribe to the Sanderson Show, where me and Callum do our watch-longs for the UFC events. The next watch-long is going to be UFC 286 in London. It's going to be prime time. No 3 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be prime time for people in the UK, so make sure you check that out. And also check out a preview that will be coming out next week on the channel. Everyone, much love. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all very soon.